Troubling new details about how Uber responded to a massive hack attack raise questions about the way it handled sensitive customer information. In an exclusive interview, the U.S. attorney who investigated the 2016 hack detailed how Uber handled the theft of data from tens of millions of users and the very different response from LinkedIn after a similar cyber theft. This comes as two hackers pleaded guilty yesterday. Chris Van Cleve is in Washington. Chris, what does Uber say about this case?
Well, good morning. When Uber finally acknowledged this hack, its new CEO said this never should have happened. But in 2016, when it happened, Uber was a very different company. And back then, its executives did not want this data breach to become public. So they paid off the hackers and then tracked them down, but not to turn them in. Prosecutors say Uber launched its own version of a manhunt to track down the two 20-something hackers that extorted the company out of $100,000 in exchange for a promise to delete 57 million user files they stole off a third-party server. The Justice Department says within weeks of paying the ransom, Uber employees showed up at Brandon Glover's Winter Park, Florida home and found Vasily Maraker at a hotel restaurant in Toronto, Canada. The pair admitted their crimes, but Uber didn't turn them over to the cops. Instead, they had the hackers sign non-disclosure agreements promising to keep quiet.
Do you feel that Uber acted responsibly?
Absolutely not.
Dave Anderson is the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of California.
Have you seen a company ask for an NDA from people who've ripped them off before?
I can't think of another case that our office has handled that has that dimension to it. This case is extraordinary in that regard.
Do you know what was done with that data after they paid?
Not definitively, and there's no way to know definitively. We know that the defendants said that they destroyed that data, but there was a third participant in the hack, and that third participant was unknown to Uber.
The hackers also targeted a company owned by LinkedIn in December of 2016, but prosecutors say LinkedIn did not pay and promptly reported the hack to police. Uber eventually did as well. A year after the hack, new CEO Dara Khosrowshahi publicly disclosed the attack. We talked to him in 2018.
One of your biggest challenges as CEO was coming into a company that had a culture that many thought was broken and fixing that culture, changing that culture. Has that change happened fast enough?
So I think we've definitely made steps in the right direction, but the work of culture is never done. Are we going to make mistakes? Yep. But are we going to get better every year? Absolutely.
The two hackers were eventually arrested and pleaded guilty on Wednesday to conspiracy to commit extortion.
Uber behaved atrociously.
Wired editor-in-chief Nick Thompson says with cybercrimes on the rise, our personal data remains vulnerable.
We've come up with all kinds of smart ways to protect data, and hackers have come up with all kinds of smart ways to get through our protections. Your data is held in a bunch of places, and each one of those places needs to be secure.
The first time those two hackers met in person was after they were arrested. They now face a maximum of 5 years in prison. That third person involved remains at large. Now, Uber said it cannot comment on an ongoing criminal investigation. Last year, the company settled with the FTC and paid $148 million to settle a nationwide investigation brought by state attorneys general over this hack. Gayle?
That's a big number. Thank you very much, Chris.